Hey everyone, let's get into the Scorpio New Moon, which is gonna go exact on November 1st. So in this video, we're just gonna vibe as usual, talk about this next lunation, which I feel is just so magical. So it's going exact. Let me pull up the exact time. It's the Scorpio New Moon. It's going exact at 8:47 a.m. on November 1st. That's Eastern Standard Time. And as some of you may know, November 1st is also Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead, like a very sacred time where we honor our ancestors, kind of the connection between realms, where we might find that kind of a little bit more hazy experiences where there's kind of like elements of non-reality coming into this realm. Very special time. Very potent new moon. It's a triple Scorpio new moon. So we have the sun, the moon, and the ascendant all in Scorpio. Yeah, and so I'm gonna just read some of the kind of like messages that I meditated on, and then also we're gonna get into astrology, tarot, all that good stuff. So for this lunation, the first theme that I wrote down is shedding mental and spiritual skins. And then the message for us is let go of resistance and the problem disappears. The opportunity to burn the aspects of self which no longer elevate yourself and humanity. What would you do or say if nothing was certain and everything was possible? Shape-shifting is possible at this time, which is so exciting. It just feels so magical. And so, actually, I'm gonna show you these cards first. You just don't make this stuff up. Look how beautiful that is, how all of the colors are just so cohesive. We have Ain. I don't know if I'm saying her name right. Ain. She's the Celtic goddess of adaptability. We have Mama Kocha, the Incan goddess of water. And we have Rhea, the Greek goddess of flow. That is so beautiful. And this perfectly lines up with the astrology, because what we have, what we call a grand water trine, where we have Mercury in Scorpio, and then we also have Neptune in Pisces, and then Mars in Cancer, like all very close in like the last decan. So if you're not familiar with the decan, it's like kind of this like symbolic thing, but it's basically like we take a zodiac sign, which is 30-degree chunks of the sky, and we slice them up into thirds. So there's 3 decans for every zodiac sign, and it kind of adds some more nuance to the signs where there's like a different planet that rules each decan within a sign, so kind of giving like a different sort of flavor, a different element of that sign. And so the third decan of Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces are 3 water signs. We have planets in all of them. So it's like a very watery, the word that came to mind is kind of this like void time where the new moon is the ultimate darkness. It's the ultimate kind of, there's nothing. There's nothing yet manifest. So this just feels like such a magical time of yeah, being able to just shed things and kind of step into new energies, kind of like just like how water is in some phases it's solid, it's ice, and then it's flowing again, and then it's just like so beautiful. So I have a really, it's almost kind of hard to put into words how I feel around this new moon. So yeah, the second theme is allow gravity to work for you. Water wears away stone, which is what I was just kind of talking about. A posture of humility is blessed. Rigidity is a prelude to breaking. And what I want to say about this little sidebar is we have a pretty close to exact Mars-Pluto opposition. They're 180 degrees apart across the Capricorn-Cancer axis at the time of this new moon, which can be a kind of like tense, like putting the gas like the hardest it goes, then like hitting a wall type thing. So if we're like pushing too hard, we could come up against some resistance. This is where I feel like this is very powerful, the imagery around taking a more fluid position, being able to like be a chameleon at this time, kind of gives someone the upper hand in some way, being able to just kind of have like spiritually soft knees, like not locking them out, but being able to just kind of like flow and move in a lot of new directions as new channels of information are opening up, and we're having realizations or having some sort of distillation process around what we want to prioritize, because the new moon is also trining the planet Saturn in Pisces. So being aware of what's coming into our dream realms at this time, and there's like a real potential for it to just kind of like materialize, which is really cool. It's like a very cauldron-y, like very beautiful time. Okay, let's return to this theme. Rigidity is a prelude to breaking. Grace will restore you when you are willing to be uncertain. And we have a hawk visiting us. That's so beautiful. Embrace the void and something will be carried down the river of your life. There's like a real, it's like a pregnant or like poignant waiting period. It feels like there's like a palpable excitement I'm feeling. I'm kind of feeling like butterflies right now. Like there's something exciting coming in. Something really exciting. But if we can just kind of stay in this more like unattached excitement, rather than just kind of like trying to be like, oh, what does this mean? Let me try to figure out the exact form of how this thing is going to come into my life. Just this like pure, unadulterated excitement feels like it's coming up. Third theme, turn toward others with your pain. Bear it together and it will dissolve. Your pain is a calling for connection, for witnessing, and for communion. And the image that kind of came when I was meditating on this new moon is like 3 people who are riding bikes together, and how they like take turns. So like the one in the front is breaking the wind, and the ones in the behind are kind of drafting, is that what you call it? Just kind of like coasting, where that we can kind of turn to each other at this time, and choosing to just kind of like bear difficult things together. The fourth theme is faded recognitions. This one is really exciting. Okay, so this could go many ways. So we have surprising betrayals, because Susan Chang, who's one of my, like, I love her for tarot resources. So she talks a lot about some of the cards for the third decan of water, which is, we'll get into that, being like the Last Supper energy, where there's like someone betraying someone. But it can also just be like a surprising, like benevolent encounter. Like, I know Judas is like smooching Jesus, but that could, like, metaphorically, that could just be like, I don't know, some sort of like karmic recognition of like, I see you in a certain way. And so being aware at this time, if there's like new characters being introduced into the folds of your life, if you're meeting people who you kind of feel that little tug of like, I feel like I know you, but I don't think I do, from this lifetime at least. And the kind of astrological signature of this feeling that I got is we have, within 3 degrees, we have Mercury opposing the planet Uranus across the 1st 7th house axis. So just like having Uranus close to the descendant in the kind of relationship house, like literally metaphorically someone coming onto your horizon. The image is like, you're like in your house looking out the window, and there's like someone like standing on your lawn just like waving to you, and you're like, oh hey, like someone just like, some surprising encounter, potentially from the past, where it's just like someone's coming back. But it's this exciting feeling, like someone's coming back, not in like a, I mean, I can't say it's universally going to be a positive reunion, but it feels like, it feels exciting. That's what I'll say. But also there's this kind of like grief to it in a way, because it's kind of this energy with a planet on the descendant. That's like the western horizon, it's setting where the sun sets. And so it's this kind of thing of like seeing someone leave, or realizing how much you appreciated them before they leave, or they just like drop something into your life and then bring up all these feelings and these realizations about how you feel about them or something completely else. But then just as fast as they came into your life, they leave. So it's like, I don't know if that really has to mean anything, but just being aware of strange encounters around this Scorpio new moon. Okay, so getting into some of the tarot cards. So each decan of the zodiac has a associated minor arcana card, as well as 2 supporting major arcana cards. So as I said, we're going to get into the cards that are kind of making up this grand water trine, because I feel like that's one of the main kind of important clues that can give us some insight into how we're experiencing time around this lunation. So for the 3rd decan of Cancer, which is where the planet Mars is going to be, which is the chart ruler in this chart, because we have Scorpio rising. Mars is the ancient ruler of Scorpio. In kind of modern versions of astrology, a lot of times people associate Pluto, but in traditional kind of Hellenistic astrology, Mars is the ruler. Okay, so this is the minor arcana card, the 4 of Cups is what we're looking at. This kind of like discontented figure. And it's funny, I've been like just having this song pop into my head all the time recently. It's like, I can't get no satisfaction, which is so funny because I feel like that's really this card. And T. Susan Chang talks a lot about like this, like the way that suffering is associated with this card, and like how the image kind of resembles like the Bodhi kind of like sitting under the tree, the Bodhisattva like awaiting enlightenment, but also this person who's just like, T. Susan Chang calls this card the quest for meaning. I kind of call it apathy after a series of disappointments, or lonely in the midst of good fortune. You got what you wanted and it still didn't make you happy. So there is this, I guess I'll say one of the ways this energy can go is this just like intense pining, this longing, this just, and you can't, it could be just kind of like a grass is greener thing, or of just like in the void, there's this kind of like ache for things to be just this kind of like lost in your own thoughts, kind of elusive feeling of disappointment, I will say. Okay, and then for the 3rd decan of Scorpio, we have the 7 of Cups, which T. Susan Chang calls mortal beauty. In this person, there's like a snake coming out of one of these cups. There's some good things, there's some maybe bad things if we want to use that like good bad language. There's a lot of choices. Yeah, and she kind of associates this card with like world building and the potential to kind of turn towards the arts, to kind of take all of these options, which could seem paralyzing. And kind of, we don't really need to live them all out, but we can kind of tap into them with our imagination. There's a real like imaginal aspect to this new moon, which is so beautiful. Okay, yeah, she calls that mortal beauty. I call it the allure of fantasy and the pleasure / agony of choice. Okay, so for the 3rd decan of Pisces, which forms the last kind of planetary node on this grand water trine, which is where Neptune is going to be. We have the 10 of Cups, which T. Susan Chang calls the rainbow unwoven, in which I call tricks of the light, and hope is the artistic medium that makes joy possible. And a lot of times I feel like this yearning kind of comes from this like, and it doesn't really matter if this is real or not, like that's the whole thing with the rainbow, is it's just like light refracted, but the kind of like search, like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, the kind of like the search and the joy of the search. But yeah, that dissatisfaction can show up a lot when we want kind of these like clear, like the happily ever after thing is something that she talks about in terms of this card, of the kind of cultural narratives around how things end and they're happy and it's happily ever after, but just like the murkiness and the trouble with delineating like what's the end and what's the beginning. And so like there's planets in all 3 of these kind of energies forming this very harmonious, like solid triangle. So we could find ourselves kind of bouncing around potentially around the different points of the triangles at this time, and either like 1 second feeling like, oh my god, life is so great, and then like back here to this place of like, wait, is it what I wanted? But as long as we kind of stay in this like adaptable, movable, watery place, and kind of allow the water of life to kind of wear away the edges on the things that on the surface like kind of look enticing, or we kind of like want to dip a toe in that pond, and experiment with it. There's like, there's a lot of beauty in not needing a dream to come through right now, which is like a weird message to come through, but like really seeing if you can find like the sliver of comfort just sitting in that kind of like ultimate void space. Like a new moon in Scorpio is like the voidiest void you can get. So yeah, if it gets too dark or too painful, and they're obviously like, you know, calling up, but then someone will come down and kind of be with you in this time. But getting comfortable in this, let me shuffle these cards back in and we'll see if there's any more cards that want to come out at this time. From this Scorpio new moon. The faded recognitions thing entices me though, and like I'm curious to know what's gonna happen, because it feels like there's some surprises, and it's almost kind of like someone's just minding their own business and then someone shows up, or like could be some really cool things going on. Yeah, something around the hands, like making something, pressing something into being, like the waters of the womb, the cosmic waters. Yeah, doing some sort of activity around this new moon that gets you into some sort of flow state, whether that's, I mentioned like biking earlier, if that's for some of us out there, but I also pulled this card, so writing can kind of give you some sort of glimpse into some like inner world that you have going on. Something's kind of getting off the ground at this time. Kind of a bittersweet feeling, honestly, this new moon. Okay. Yeah, oh my god, this is so funny. The Knight of Wands literally just jumped out of the deck. I love that. That's very Knight of Wands fashion. This is just so Uranus on the descendant, this person who's just coming in. Okay, let's find out a little bit more. What is this what is this Mercury-Uranus opposition? What is this messenger bringing? Because it does feel like some sort of new information is coming through. The Ace of Cups in reverse. Interesting. What is the message of the Nine of Wands? Yeah, it's like a whole new direction. Two of Wands upright. It's like a new choice is opening up in some way. Like something that wasn't even on the table or something. These cards keep jumping out. The Three of Pentacles in the reverse position. Not wanting to share something. Feeling judged or left out of something. Two of Pentacles. This Aries, or not Aries, the Scorpio New Moon. What other messages are here for us? Yeah. Like deciding something's not worth the fight. That's very, like, putting down some sort of sword that you've been carrying around for a long time in some way, and just trusting that like whatever shakes out, things will be better than before. This Scorpio New Moon. Okay. The Nine, or the Eight of Swords. She showed up in our last reading. The Lover's reversed. Okay, there's some sort of like, okay, so I don't love some of the people who are coming into our lives this time. There is like an element of some sort of obsessive thing. Or like someone that we knew from like a past organization that we were a part of, like a school setting or a workplace. And it's like the cycle's over, but they're like, they still have something to say. They're like, I need to put in my 2 cents here and say something. The feeling that I get is like there's okay, interesting. There's like a curveball coming in that's kind of like a test to see if you're really done with this pattern or not. So if you set a boundary and you're like, I'm not willing to tolerate this behavior, and then it's like you're in the clear for a while, but then all of a sudden someone comes in, this kind of embodiment of Uranus, the like disruptor, the rebel, who kind of comes in some way, and maybe you're this person for other people too, but just kind of tests you to see if you're really done with something. Interesting. And so if you can just kind of like, I'm hearing sit pretty, just like not touch anything. And it might, yeah, interesting. Okay, this kind of confirms that we have the devil confirming the Lovers in the reversed position. There's some sort of like obsessive relationship thing. Maybe not for all of us, but there's like a hope. There's like a hope. Okay, interesting. I feel like this is less nefarious than I initially thought and more of just like a human thing with where did I put it? Oh, I shoveled it back in, so it's in here somewhere. But with the 10 of Cups, that kind of like rainbow imagery of this like idyllic, happy family, there is an element to that that's like, it's blocking the true thing from coming in, because it's like what you think it needs to look like or what it needs to be, or the person needs to come in a specific package. This is the card, the 10 of, so someone wants to come in and give us something, but we don't know if we should take it or not. How can we best work with the energy of this Scorpio new moon to create futures we, okay. It's like an energy of like creating an opportunity by being in your own energy in a way, and being open to the possibility of an opportunity, but not in like this seeking, like meddling way, like this really kind of like convoluted, like lover devil type thing where it's very like involving other people and it's really complicated. So it's like if people come in and they feel like an exciting connection that's in some way a recognition from the past, you can just kind of notice that and kind of like think like, oh, maybe this will lead somewhere, but also don't know that you can get off the ground. Something can get off the ground. This sounds kind of like a bootstrappy way of saying that, so I don't really know. That's a weird message, but like, you don't need, this is very paradoxical because it's like we're invited to like lean on each other at this time, but it's also like maintaining some degree of individuation with the Knight of Cups and the Emperor coming out is like some of the more supportive energies here of like this person is seated in their kind of like sovereign space. Interesting. Emperor with Aries energy, the Knight of Cups. It's like creating an opportunity by being in the void is the best way I can put it. So it's kind of like this lunation feels like the ultimate void and spark. This kind of like redefining, it's kind of marking a new cycle, as all lunations do moving forward, where there's kind of some sort of disruptive elements here. And so being able to just keep your heart open, sit in some silence. Okay. If someone comes in very quickly and quickly upturns something in your life, I don't know if this is for all of us or just a few, don't feel like you need to make any sort of rash decisions. And if you're, okay, this is interesting too. The difference between, and the importance of discerning between excitement, attraction, and anxiety. So if there's some sort of new connection or person who kind of has this kind of like dread feeling, but you're kind of like, ooh, it's exciting, because I associate being scared with attraction. That's for only, I feel like, one or two people. And it feels like I need to move really fast, but it's like just this kind of like impulse, like they're just pushing things along or want me to make some sort of dramatic change all of a sudden. you can just, there's like a very quick, like once a decision is made, it's gonna kind of sail for a while. And so being thoughtful around standing behind someone, that's a weird, just like, if standing behind someone is gonna mean that you're farther from yourself, just kind of questioning that in some way. So yeah, the Empress. I love this. I love this. Yes, this is what I'm talking about. This woman, she's just in her comfy chair. There's like a waterfall. It's great. She's vibing. She's owning her power. Yes, this is very much Rhea. Okay, so we can just take these images with us for the Scorpio New Moon. It might get, with the last decades of water signs, it can get kind of heady in terms of like, what do I want, what do I not want? Also with the degree of the lunation, 9 degrees Scorpio is the first decan of Scorpio, which is called, T. Susan Chang calls like a flood of tears or something. And so just like the theme of floods, the theme of like floods of tears, floods of inspiration, physical maybe floods, weather, the ways that water is kind of this like cleansing force that's washing away old. Okay, that's interesting too. People might just kind of fall out of your life too with this kind of like, it was kind of like based on some sort of unhealthy attraction, or the Uranus moment is like they're come back and there's like some sort of temptation or some sort of thing of like, are you really done with this behavior or this dynamic with this person? And there's an opportunity by being like, yep, I'm done, for kind of those like those sweet waters, let me find the card, to really wash something clean and to actually start like from a clean slate here. And so that when we move through Scorpio season into Sagittarius season, and kind of from this kind of like death to temperance energy in the tarot, there's like a real rebirth, this kind of shedding of skins, this emergence, kind of lighter, more grounded, less complicated, less up and down, less anxious, and more kind of steady. More steady is what I'm feeling. So as always, feel free to share any of your insights around this Scorpio new moon. Sending lots of love, and we'll connect very soon.